And the element of our practice is trying to make it as effortless as possible. Just sit relaxed and let the natural awareness of the breath entering the nostrils, coming out of the nostrils, let it naturally arise. You're not anxious to know it, you're not trying to force the mind. Just relax. The more you're relaxed, more naturally you'll become aware of the breath and more calm you'll become. If you put too much effort, then again you'll get tense, restless. And if you put too little effort, then you'll sleep. So you have to balance the effort so much that you are always attentive and yet quite relaxed. Normally, when we think of being attentive, we get tense, so something has to be done. So you have to learn to the art of being relaxed and yet attentive. It's a very important art for whole of our life. You're young girls, you have a long life ahead. At least I wish so. So make use of this training. It's a practice, an art you're learning. And that will go. Sometimes you'll not be able to observe it. Mind will wander away. Anything may happen. But the mind should remain relaxed and attentive. You forget to feel the breath, and some thought comes of what happened in the home, or what happened in the college, or what happened in the society. And you spend minutes, long time in thinking about it. And then suddenly you remember, oh, I was supposed to be meditating. So at that time, just smile. Oh, that is the nature of the mind. It is not in my control. And I have to tame it slowly, slowly, like taming a wild monkey or a wild bull. You have to tame it very gently, tie it to tie a rope around it, and tie that rope to a pole. And the monkey will wander here, the animal will wander, but ultimately it'll get tired because there's nowhere to go. Similar is the analogy of mind. It wants to go here and there. It doesn't like observing this boring breath going in, going out. There's no excitement in it. But train it. Never mind. Do it. Come on. So you can give suggestions to your mind. Come on. Only half an hour. Be a good boy, good girl. Listen. See the breath going in, breath coming out. So very gently, affectionately, as you will train a kid, as you will train a domestic animal, you train your mind. Keeps on wandering, but tied down to the breath. Breath is the string by which you keep the mind tied. Wants to go here and there, bring it back. And the pole is your area of the nostrils. If you are able to observe 4 breaths consecutively, just gently raise your hand. And 3 breaths, consecutive 3 breaths. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And how many of you are practicing at home? Yeah, so please, it's important if you want to benefit from this exercise to practice at home. That's very, very important because 2 days in a week is not going to, mind is too restless and enticed by the world. At your age, it's very difficult unless you have very strong motivation. So develop that motivation that it's going to benefit me. Mind is wandering too much. Please remember the instruction to take the forceful breath. In either take a deep breath and let it come out. Take a few deep breaths with the attention focused on the area around nostrils so that you get used to this subtle observation of a subtle thing like a breath. And do it for a few minutes and then give up making effort and try to note the natural breath. So it's half an hour. You can open your eyes now and relax for a few minutes or so. Open your eyes and share the screen. You can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just last time we completed this discussion on perception. So before we move to next, I think it's important that we recap what we have done till now and put it in the proper context. Otherwise you can get lost in details and not remember the overall context. So what have we been, under what objective has been studying? What is all these, what various things which we discussed over last few classes? They were a part of basic study of teachings of the Buddha. That is the first noble truth. There is suffering. And in enunciation of there is suffering, the Buddha pointed out something. Sankittena panchupadana khanda dukkha. In summary, संक्षेप में 5 उपादान के खंड दुख हैं. So these are 5 clinging aggregates, 5 aggregates to which we cling. So this is what we have been discussing, which basically the whole objective is to understand suffering. So what are these 5 aggregates? Can you just recall? What are the 5 aggregates of clinging? That is Panchupadana Khanda. First one is Rupa, physical form, the body. Second is the feeling. Okay. Third was Sanya, the perception, the interpretation of experience. Fourth was called Sankhara, the mental volition. And fifth was Vijnana, the consciousness. And Rupa is a physical khanda, and these remaining 4 are called Arupino khandas. They're slightly misplaced. These are Arupino khandas, which means they are immaterial stuff. So what have we studied till now, and what is left to be done?
Then Sankhara is left.
Sankhara is left, isn't it? So we have studied the remaining. So how many types of Vijnana are there?
6.
6 associated with what? What are they associated with? The sense bases. So we call them eye consciousness, ear consciousness, smell consciousness, taste consciousness, and touch consciousness, and thinking consciousness. What is their function? What does Vijnana do?
It recognizes the
Basic function.
experience.
Each sense door cognizes the corresponding object. What is the object of eye? Or what is the object of ear? An object of tongue? Taste. An object of touch?
Tactile.
Any object which touches the skin. And thought is the object of mind consciousness. And what is Vedana?
feeling component of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. How we feel after we come in contact with an object. After one of the senses come in contact with
Yes, so it is. And in psychological terms, what is vijnana called?
sensory consciousness.
Yeah, what is the role of it is cognition. So it is the cognitive aspect of human behavior, which determines human behavior. And what is Vedana?
The affective tone.
Effective domain. Okay. And what is Sanya?
Perception, meaning making of that cognition.
So where will it lie? So what is the role of Sanya in terms of the psychological dimensions of existence? Does it belong to feeling, or does it belong to consciousness, or does it stand alone?
The interpretation of feeling.
It affects feeling, yes, it influences feeling, but by itself, what is it? It is an interpretation of experience. So it is a cognition which it assists cognition. Without sanya, cognition is not complete. If you see something and don't recognize it, you are left to wonder what is it. So sanya is a part of the cognitive processes. Vedana is an affective process. And what is the third domain of psychological dimension? One is cognitive, second is affective. What is the third aspect?
Behavioral.
Hmm?
Behavioral.
It's a cognitive aspect. What does it mean, cognitive?
Memory.
Behavioral.
The expression of it. Behavioral.
You're not familiar with cognitive?
Behavioral.
Cognitive aspect of our psychological dimension.
Sir, are we audible? Please answering. Sir,
Okay,
are we audible?
let us visualize that we are seeing. You are not able to hear? Is there any problem?
Sir, are you able to hear us, sir?
Say it again.
Sir, can you hear us?
Yeah. I can hear you.
So we were saying that cognitive means behavioral component.
Okay, let's leave aside the words. If you're not familiar, let's leave aside the words. Now, whenever you encounter anything in the world, you hear, what do you encounter? You either hear something, or taste something, or see something, or touch something, isn't it? Or smell something, or think something. So what happens afterwards? Whenever senses come in contact with their object, can you describe the processes which happen? You must have studied it in your psychology classes. How does human behavior occur? How do we behave in the world? That's the fundamental aspect of psychology.
So, are we talking about the neurological aspect?
No, behavioral aspect. How does behavior arise? Why does behavior happen of particular kind? Why is it that if I abuse somebody, he slaps me back, and if I praise somebody, he says thank you? Why is that? Why is this person behaving in this particular manner on hearing certain words? What is happening? What is the process? What is the mechanics of the process?
Sir, the sensory information, it comes in through our sense organs. So if somebody praises me, that information goes through my ears, and from the ears, I process it. I make meaning out of it. Okay, this person said to me something pleasant. And then accordingly, okay, this person has said me pleasant, and to a pleasant thing, I am conditioned, I have to say thank you to that person. So that influences my response. And then I say thank you to that person.
And says, take the other case, somebody tells you you're the worst person in this earth. What are you going to do?
React in a
Suppose.
If I'm not open to feedback, and I personally believe that I am one of the best persons, then I would be very defensive in my behavior. I would just like ignore that person, like what he or she said to me. If I'm open to feedback, then maybe I'll ask them, like, why do they feel that, or why do they say that?
No, it seems you have never faced a situation where anybody has criticized you. Is that so?
So, sir, I have faced.
And did you ask the person criticizing you, please tell me, why are you criticizing me? Did you do that? Did you actually do that? Or is it a theory? What did you actually do? Just recall. I mean, let's be frank, and because we're trying to understand behavior ultimately. See, the whole of Buddha's teaching is practical. It is meant for that purpose, to understand. And being psychologist, I thought you must have certainly studied about these things, isn't it? So try to put whatever you said in the various categories which we have developed here, 5 aggregates. Can you put it in that category? Say you hear a word. When we say hear a word, what does it mean? There is hearing consciousness which is arising. There's no person who is hearing. There's only a hearing consciousness which arises, and the hearing happens. And that then hearing is interpreted. What does it mean interpreted? The sanya operates. The sanya operates and say, this person is criticizing me. And that causes a feeling, unpleasant feeling. We don't like criticism, we like praise. So it causes unpleasant feeling. So that is the effective tone of experience is unpleasant. I don't want it. This should not happen. And that unpleasant feeling provokes a reaction. And that reaction could be either in the form of defense or in the form of retaliation or revenge. You got calling me bad, and what good you are? You're a useless person, and you're whatever. There can be so many possibilities. You can get angry, and if this person is a bully, you may not like to say anything, but you get internally angry and face lights up and you walk out of that place or something. So many possibilities exist. Now, what is the response to that feeling? Is the action which arises from that. That is what his behavior is. Behavior could be you say thank you. Behavior could be you say you are a wretched person. Behavior could be, oh no, you are trying to defend your position. Behavior could be you just abuse him outright. Behavior could be even worse. You just slap him or her. What the hell you think you are? And then you can know what goes on in the world here. People can, these days in Delhi, especially in summer when the temperatures are high, people get into road rage like this and pull out a gun and shoot at the other person. Why? Because how do you dare you cut my path on the road? And if you analyze it, exactly that's what is happening. There's a consciousness, there's a interpretation of the experience, and there's a feeling, and to that feeling we respond. This is what the Buddha points out. Normally we think we are responding to the external object. He says, no, you're responding to the feeling. A feeling arises first, and with respect to that feeling, you are conditioned to respond in a particular way. We are all conditioned by hedonistic tendencies. We want to have pleasure. We want to get praise. So if somebody criticizes us, or we get unpleasant feelings due to other reasons. Say we happen to take a cup of tea and hoping it will be wonderful, and you sip it and it's too hot and your mouth burns. Enormous anger arises immediately. But if you analyze that process of anger, this is the steps which take place. Are you able to see that? So the reaction which arises in response to the sensory impingement is the mental volitional formation or the sankhara. That's what Buddha calls as sankhara. And sankhara, of course, is a very, very big term. It is used in a variety of ways. So it can become a bit confusing. So we have to first really see this, okay? These are the things which we have discussed. Sankhara is only one, so we'll discuss it now. And there's a very simple word for it, pratikriya. How are you reacting to the feelings which are arising? You can react with wisdom, you can react with ignorance. Normally, because of our hedonistic tendencies, wisdom gets clouded. We either are carried away in a affirmative sense, in a positive sense, or we get angry or repressed or feel irritated if the feeling arising from the experience is unpleasant. So what does this sankhara therefore mean? It means the volitional impulse arising in response to sensory impingement. Okay? And it's also called volitional formations are also called chetana, the intention, the conative aspect of the mind, which is going to determine what you're going to do. So that's what is meant by the conative aspect of mind, which results in action. Every sensory impingement will result in some action. It could be wise, it could be unwise, it could be just mental reaction in the terms of anger and you don't speak anything. It could be reaction in the form of speech, reaction in the form of physical action. So it could be mental, vocal, or physical action. But they're all actions. They're all behind them. There is an intention. Behind them there is a impulse arising. Impulse has arisen. A reaction has arisen to the experience. And that reaction is actually what is called karma in the Buddha's teachings. In Buddha's teaching, karma is not what you actually end up doing. It is the intention behind that which forms the karma. And which is the one which impacts our mind and produces its consequences in due course of time. And this is a different understanding from many other traditions, where karma is taken only as the action which you're doing. Buddha points out it is the intention behind the action, the chetana, which is the real karma. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So then how many types of volitions would there be?
Six.
There will again be 6, depending on what is the sensory impingement and response to that sensory impingement. So they are called response to form, sound, smell, taste, tangible object, thoughts. And the word he uses is sanchetana. Chetana is this is one of them. I mean, these are all for your purposes. You can treat them as equivalent. Sanchetana, you can treat is sankhara or chetana. I don't want to get into too much of technicality, but this is very clear. It is rupa sanchetana, means the volition arising on interaction of a rupa. You see a person, and there's a person about whom you have the impression she's not my well-wisher. So the moment you see her, feeling arises of unpleasantness, and there's a reaction in the mind, or maybe you may even speak out something, you may get angry, you may speak out just by seeing a person. Similarly, hearing a sound. These two are the most common and most prominent modes of interaction which we have in the world. First two, form and sound. And then there is smell. Periodically we have smell creating a response. Then we have taste. 2-3 times in a day we eat, or maybe more. And whenever we eat, there is some response. Food is tasty or not tasty, or bland or whatever. Then touch again is quite constantly happening. This is the one which happens every time because air is always touching, skin is always open to the surroundings. And if nothing else, the clothes are touching, the air is touching, and if your friend is there, his friend is touching, or some other human being is touching, or animal is touching. So that's another thing which is constantly happening. And then there are thoughts, which you call Dhamma Sanchetana. Dhamma means here it means the mental contents, whatever is happening in the mind. So you can see how nicely the whole terminology has been developed and how the whole paradigm of understanding human mind is explained in the Buddha's teachings. 6 types of feelings provoke corresponding 6 types of reactions. And 6 types of feelings arise because of 6 types of consciousness. And they are mediated by 6 types of perception. And we know this is how mind works, all from our practical experience. We don't need any book or any psychologist to tell us that this is how you behave. We know this is exactly what happens. And you can verify it every time. Every time you behave in any way, you can immediately verify, oh, this is what happened. I heard something, I didn't like it because it doesn't match with my perception, and therefore there's unpleasantness, and therefore I reacted in this manner. Or other way around, there was some smell, I very much liked it, and I felt happy, there was a pleasant feeling, and so this was the reaction. I became happy, and I tried to ask the person, which perfume do you use? And so on. They're all behavioral aspects which are whose micro level analysis is done in this manner. And that's what is called the consciousness is the cognitive aspect, and consciousness and perception are the cognitive aspects in Buddha's teaching. Feeling is the affective aspect, and sankhara is the conative aspect, which results in action. Now, sankhara is also used for all mental factors other than Vedana and Sanya. And as you will see, they're all actually various kinds of reactions which arise. On sensory impingement, greed may arise, generosity may arise, aversion may arise, friendliness may arise, delusion may arise, non-delusion may arise, and so on. And they're not exhaustive. There are at least 50 different mental factors which Buddha identifies as unique factors on their own experience. I've just listed some of them, which I'm sure you can easily relate to. So have a look at them slowly and see whether you can relate to all of them. Some of them arise on interaction, which arise on interaction, but they're also carried as a latent tendency in our mind from past experience and from past lives, is what Buddha says. And these influence our behavior. You must have seen people in your family, in your friends. Some people have a temperament of what's called a nature of greed. They want to think pleasant things. They want to accumulate pleasant things. So anything pleasant, and they would like to accumulate it, take it for themselves. And there are some people who have a very good attitude of generosity. They don't want to accumulate. They want to share with others. They do dana, and so much dana they keep on doing that because that's their mindset. That's the way their psychic structure is right from the birth. Some people have a friendly attitude. Some people have a complaining attitude. Some people have an attitude of being very conscientious. Conscientious meaning don't want to do any immoral action. You feel ashamed of that. You're afraid of that. Others are totally reckless. That doesn't matter. Telling a lie, of course, in modern times, yeah, keep on telling a lie. That's their attitude. How does it matter? Yeah, chastity. What is chastity? 100-year-old concept. Doesn't matter anything. Come on, have fun. Have fun. Yeah. So there are various temperaments. I'm sure you must have noticed in people, and therefore, when the conditions are suitable, then those habit patterns they come to the surface. They are the latent tendencies. Buddha calls them as anushaya klesha. The latent or sleeping kind of unconscious habit patterns which are carried in the stream of consciousness. And whenever conditions are right, they get activated and a person behaves accordingly. So that's how these sankharas operate. Okay, is this clear? Is this make sense to you?
Yes,
Any
sir.
questions if you have, you can ask me. I've tried to use Pali words because of my familiarity, but you can see very near to the Hindi, isn't it? लोभ आप लोग पहचानते होंगे अलोभ is also a Hindi word. It's actually generosity, you can say. Dosh is dvesh. Moh is moh. Then these are specialist words, moral shame and all. Isha is irsha in Hindi. This is, of course, typical Pali word, which is kokritya, which is remorse about having done something wrong. Udricha is also word. Udrit means something is very restless because of certain reasons. And there are so many other mental factors which are possible. I don't want to do it just now. We'll talk about it in detail later if you feel the need.
So, Yashika, this side, I have a question. Can I ask?
हाँ बोलो बोलो बेटा.
Sir, ये
I
पीछे
think
वाली
why don't you briefly introduce yourself to the class?
Oh yeah, sorry. Hi, I've been like a silo part here. My name is Yashika. I'm a counseling psychologist. Have been in the field for the last 6 years now. I did my bachelor's from Jesus and Mary College in psychology honors, and then I did my master's from Christ University, Bangalore, in counseling psychology. So that's a little bit about my professional background. And
Yes,
yeah, as for the course thing, I have done one Vipassana course, after which I reached out to sir for some support, and which is where he sort of like was kind enough to provide me with the space. Can I ask my question now, sir?
please go ahead.
So the previous slide, if we can go to that, here, so volition in itself means related to will, right? And I understand will as my, like, it's something that I have some control over, right? That it's will कि मैंने किया वो. And then volitional impulses sort of becomes counterintuitive then, because impulse is something that'll happen on its own. So my question then becomes here that uh, that just from an observational standpoint, uh, when a sankhara arises, where is my will? How do I identify my will in that moment? And I mean, maybe I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe it's a complicated question.
yeah. No. It's pretty straightforward. You're thinking that you have a control on yourself and you can do what you like.
Right.
The extent to which you are enlightened, to that extent you have control. Otherwise, you have no control actually. Only a fully enlightened person who has no craving, no aversion, no delusion is free, totally free. All of us are bound because of the extent of craving we have, because of the extent of aversion we have. And they are the they are the fuel for our repeated birth and again dying and buying and birth. As long as there is craving, there will be, which means हम कुछ चाहते हैं, we want something. The stream of consciousness will keep on going towards that, going toward that. So this fact of I have a free will is one of the very hotly debated issue in psychology and philosophy. And Buddha's teachings have taught me and made very clear that free will is an illusion.
Right.
There's nothing like free will.
So,
When we
what does the
say,
word volition mean in this context then?
say it again,
What does the word volition mean in this context then?
illusion means which I have, which is the result of my um, which the intention which arises in me, and as a result of which I do something. Okay. Now the intention is also a conditioned factor. So though you may like to believe that I did so, if you have a if you have the ability to observe the state of the mind very precisely, that's why we say so much calm down the mind and see, you will notice invariably that what I thought was my free will, I wanted to do this or that, is conditioned and conditioned in this manner as it is explained by the Buddha's teachings. And that's, of course, a very shattering conclusion for a practicing counselor and psychologist. I can understand that. So, what we say is, yeah, you have, as long as you have a sense of self, there's a will. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, and the sense of self is the biggest illusion, the biggest delusion we have. So therefore, it becomes quite complex. You see. So what we therefore say is that we investigate how is my behavior arising. We don't go into theory that I have a free will or I don't have a free will. We actually, so as a counselor, if you do it professionally, I do it as a part of meditation teacher. So people come with their problems and I point out to them, see, look how you behave, this. This just
Right.
happened because of this reason. There was a sensory impingement, somebody said something, and you have a perception. And that's the key perception you have about yourself, or about people, or about politicians, or about what should be done, what should not be done. And that doesn't match with that influences the feelings which arises from sense contact. And the feelings is what really traps us because we are kind of genetically conditioned to chase pleasant feelings. That's what is hedonism is called. You're conditioned to chase pleasant feelings from here to there. Whenever there's an unpleasant feeling, our immediate response is how to change it to a pleasant feeling somewhere here or there. So that conditioning is so strong, part of our genetic structure, that we are not able to see that our behavior is governed primarily by that craving. When that craving it's not possible to fulfill it, we get upset, we get angry, and the behavior arises of that kind. So that's why when we study the second noble truth, then it becomes more clear. Okay, that's what suffering is arising. But if you want to say what is the volitional impulse, yeah, it is something which it seems to me I decided. So it seems to me. So we can keep it at that. It seems to me I decided. Now, if I investigate very deeply and if I develop that ability to see my mind, I'll find out, yeah, I decided like this because of these conditions. Not that there was any independent being who decided and who had a free will. You may not like to tell it to your people who are really in difficulty, but at least as a advisor, should know this is how the mind works, and then gradually, we take the person toward that understanding. Does it make sense, Yashik?
It does. It's a little bit more complicated to grasp, I suppose, because there is an experiential element to all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it definitely makes sense. And what I'm hearing is that just between these two words, volition and impulses, it's almost like a continuum. And then as perhaps when we experientially grow, we will figure out how it's less of a volition and more of an impulse.
Yeah.
But
But
also,
we don't recognize it as an impulse. That is the tragedy.
yeah, yeah.
I put it this because of this very reason. So that you say it is my volition. But the Buddha says it is an impulse. Come on. Be able to grow up and see what is actually happening.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, in other philosophies, like something which talks about the ultimate bliss in Indian psychology, so there we it it talks about that when you experience it, then the bliss is constant. And here you said that Buddha considered the positive feelings also as an impulse. So, sir, how can we, like, how do we make sense out of it? Like Hindu tradition talk about that you when you reach your higher self or the ultimate self, then you reach to a state of positive experience in which you feel happiness.
Yeah, yeah.
Here,
That's true.
yeah.
We are not in that ultimate experience anyway, isn't it?
Yes,
We're
sir.
not we are not describing the ultimate experience of a fully enlightened being. There's no description of that possible. I am describing the state of affairs of mine and yours. See, there's a difference between philosophy and Buddha's teachings. He's pragmatic. That's why he's called a radical phenomenologist. He observes phenomena and tells it, this is what you're doing. Come on, grow up and see. Don't get caught in those fancy philosophies of eternal consciousness and pure bliss. Are you experiencing bliss? If you're experiencing, then you don't have to come to me to ask my question. We have a nice time. So the fact that we are studying is because we experience suffering. That's why we are discussing all that. If one of you can say that I have never experienced suffering in my life, you are not required to do this course. You're not required to study anything. They're certainly not psychology and modern psychology or anything. But the fact is that we have all experienced suffering to different degrees of different kinds. And we are trying to understand that. See, that's the classic difference of Buddha's teachings from all other teachings. He doesn't get into any philosophical issue. Not that there is no philosophy behind it, but he doesn't focus on that. He doesn't, for example, answer those questions at all. Whether there is pure consciousness, which is eternal bliss, he says, well, whether it is there or not there, it doesn't matter because it's not affecting you in any way. That's it. So it needs a extremely original thinker to be able to put like that, original. And that's the characteristic of a fully enlightened person. He can see what exactly is the disease. And he actually says that these philosophies are actually part of your problem. You're not looking at the reality as it is. You're living in a conjectured world. The problem is you contact the world outside, senses contact the world, there are objects, there are perceptions, there is a feeling, and you react to feeling like an automata. Like a Pavlov's dogs, you must have heard, I'm sure, all of you. We all behave like Pavlov's dogs. We get pleasant feeling, wah, 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 wah. We get unpleasant feeling, no, 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 I don't want, I don't want, I don't want. Pleasant feeling, yeah, I want it more, 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 more. It should not go, it should not go. Unpleasant feeling, it should go, it should go, it should go. That's what we are, that's the constant conditioning of our mind. And you have to decondition it on the light of wisdom. Not that we decide, oh, I should decondition it. No, we understand. That's why the whole process of teaching of the Buddha, whole process of Buddhist psychology is understanding. No suppression, no uncontrolled expression, just clear observation. What's going on? Okay? So you can see whatever I have described, whatever we have discussed till now, is a description of what exactly is going on in our life. Okay? So all those great philosophies, we have all respect for them. I've studied all of them in reasonable detail. And I can give discourses on them if you like, but they're not going to solve my problem in that manner. Just that existence of pure self. Of course, if I follow that scheme of thought, for example, Advaita, then there are a series of practices to be done to reach that. The tragedy is that we think our true nature is pure bliss, so therefore there's nothing to be done. We just can enjoy our true nature. That's not, it doesn't happen. We know it. We know it from our own experience. Yeah.
Sir, but the fact that Buddha said that I am searching the cause of suffering and the way out of it. So, sir, मतलब way out of it ultimately जब suffering से बाहर आ जाएंगे तो it will be a positive experience.
Yeah,
So how
of course.
can we say that that won't be an impulse?
That won't be a,
That won't be an impulse.
yeah, impulse means uncontrolled reaction. That's not a reaction. That is a state of being. Okay, because he talks about nibbana, he calls it nirvana. Okay, he says there are various categories of happinesses: worldly happiness, happiness as obtained from meditation, and happiness as obtained from purification of mind. And that he says ultimate complete eradication of all defilements from the mind is results in experience of nibbana, which is paramam sukham. That is the ultimate pleasant feeling, or you can ultimate joy, ultimate bliss, whatever word we want to use it. So that is obtained by following a process. And same thing is said in other traditions also. But the problem occurs that you think that Nibbana is something which is available now, and I can take it just now. And when people want to posit that kind of a philosophy, without doing the hard work, I'll get there somehow, because that is my true nature. That is the problem. Otherwise, there's no difficulty. There's a lot of convergence between various Indic schools of thought, whether it is Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma, Jainism, Sikhism, and Buddhism. They have a large thing in common, enormous commonality. There are some differences at the apex level, which shouldn't bother people like us who are not anyway fully enlightened. So they all, you can see, if you study everything, all which are indigenous developments in our country, they all have the same texture. They all have the same, or I should say, it's not same, similar processes of attaining, of remove freedom from suffering. The paths may be slightly different. One may go, it's like going on a mountain, mountain top, you go in one way, somebody goes straight up the shortest, steepest ascent, somebody goes gradually, circularly, slowly, and he reaches the top. But of course, if one gets caught up in the in between, in some intermediate stage, you find a beautiful scenery outside, you say, oh, wonderful, lot of bliss, forget it now. This itself is the ultimate. That's what happens. But the path in the Indic traditions is almost same. One has to study it and do it. So if you don't get carried away by the philosophies, but focus on the path, you'll find a lot of similarities. So as we come to the path later, अभी तो हम basic understanding कर रहे हैं ना. First noble truth ही समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Isn't it? That there is suffering. And he said, what is suffering? These 5 khandas are suffering. So we're understanding why are they suffering. And we did mention various characteristics in our discussions till now. So we'll continue with that kind of basic aim in our mind. We'll continue with the discussion further in that direction. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is also used for all conditioned phenomena. So I'll just mention it. I don't want to discuss it. That sankhara is a generic term also, in Pali as well as in Sanskrit. So that's called sanskar in Sanskrit or Hindi. Is anything which is made up, which means which is not which is made up of constituents, whether it is material or mental. And there are statements to that effect that everything which is sankhara is impermanent, which is unhappiness, is not satisfactory, and so on. So many times you'll find this used by me also. So I'm just mentioning this statement that the word sankhara has various connotations. So you have to see the context in which it is being used so as to get the correct meaning. Okay. So we'll now come to the First, having studied those 5 khandas, now we'll try to write down what are their basic characteristics. Okay. So this is what we have studied. I hope you can read and relate to them. And if you have any questions about any of them, we can discuss it further. Because I have already spoken about all of them. First point is all these aggregates are continually in a flux. They are impermanent, constantly changing. Form, feeling, perception, consciousness, and sankharas. They're all constantly changing. Our habit patterns are constantly changing. Whether I am angry, if I have an underlying tendency of anger, it doesn't remain constant. It keeps on changing in the light of experience. It can reduce with experience, it can increase with experience, depending on wisdom and depending on conditioning. They keep on changing. Then they arose because of certain conditions in the past and will be disaggregated in the future because of certain other conditions. They're all conditional situations. They get the aggregates themselves are aggregated, but they separate out. Someday the body is formed. We are born in because of certain conditions, and we die because of certain conditions. So it's constantly happening, and this birth and death is happening moment to moment. Science also tells us our cells are dying, new ones are being regenerated. Continuously, it's happening. So this is true of body and mind as a whole, as well as of each of the aggregates. And then I had said, they don't belong to us, they belong to nature and cannot be called as mine, I, or myself. This needs some more detail. We'll spend some time, little time. And wisdom therefore lies in not taking these aggregates personally. And that's what is meant by the third characteristic of anitta. I had mentioned anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So why do you say wisdom lies in not taking these personally? And so we'll spend some time, not much. So what the Buddha points out is that this notion of I or myself is actually ingrained in us just as a thought which is believed. There's no reality to that. And it is the root of all suffering. And this, of course, is a pretty loaded statement. And it needs a lot of understanding, discussion to be able to understand it. But we all know we have a sense of I am. And it continues to be constantly there. I am, I am, I am. We don't keep on saying I am, but we believe internally it's a felt experience. And yeah, it's happening to me. I am ill. I am angry. I am not beautiful. I am not handsome. I am very wise. I am very dull. And we keep on saying, oh, I am feeling bad. I am feeling unhappy. Oh, I'm feeling cold. Why you're not feeling cold? Why do I feel so much cold? I need so many clothes. You don't need so many clothes. So we all have that interaction. I, you, me, mine. So that kind of interaction is always there. Now, to be able to understand that further, one categorization which is done in the Buddha's teaching is difference between conventional and ultimate truths. There's something called conventional truth, which is needed for our day-to-day functioning in the world. Okay. And then there are ultimate truths, which means which are the basic truths which are describing the nature of the experience. Now, I'll just give you some cues to that and leave it for you to think and discuss. What is a car? Suppose I ask you, what is a car?
Car is a four-wheel vehicle that runs on fuel and can transport like 1 to 6 people maybe from a place to other. It's a road transport.
Yeah, so is it a thing or is it a concept? Because you have given a concept, no? On four wheels, we have so many things. Transport is so many things. These are all concepts. What is it? So suppose I show you a car. Let me see if I can pull out that teaching. Yeah, here is a car, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So can you show me which is the car here? Can you touch something and say this is a car?
Yes, I mean, if it's.
So the whole is the car.
So suppose I remove all the parts of it and put them on a ground. These are the very parts. It's called the exploded view. You know, in engineering, we do all these kind of funny things. You say, oh, what are the parts of the car? These are the parts. No? Many times when you do this, especially in my field of mechanical engineering, say we disassemble a car and then we say, okay, come on now, assemble it. So I remember as a second year student, I went to DTC workshop for seeing a engine of a bus. So those mechanics, to kind of make me a fool of me, they said, we are three of us. He said, come on, open this whole engine. So we opened up. It took us 2 days. Complex engine of a car, bus. Then he said, okay, now you assemble it. So what is the fun? We opened, we'll assemble. He said, yeah, come on, do it. We did assembled it, and we were left with a kind of a bag full of nuts and bolts. So, hey, what is this? You assembled, and where did these nuts and bolts come from? So we said, yeah, but they were there somewhere, but we don't know where they were. So this is all the thing of the car taken out kept on the workshop. Now you tell me which is the car. So I'll move this arrow. Can you see this arrow? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is this the car?
That
This?
is part.
This? This is the car? This?
No.
This? This? So where is the car?
You disassembled it.
Hmm?
It's in
Where is the
our,
car?
it's in our head.
It's a concept.
Okay.
That may be a very unsettling thing that I am saying your car is a concept. Car is just a concept. There's nothing like a car which you can touch and say, this is the car. There's no car apart from its parts. That's what was written there. There's no car apart from its parts. There's no forest apart from the trees. There's no river apart from the flowing water. And so, there's no being apart from the five khandhas.
But when those parts of a car are coming together, then to it is a car, na?
Yeah, that is called a car. Coming together of those 1535 parts, coming together, those we call this whole combination a car. So that is a concept. That assembly of all these things is called a car, and assembly done in a particular manner. Not any random assembly like we did of that engine. I'm sure if we had put that engine on a bus and started it, there would be a disaster.
So then are we also in concept?
Yeah, so it may be a unsettling thing. That's what he's saying. So you have to think about it carefully. There's no being apart from this five khandhas. So can you touch any part of your body and say, this is me? So maybe one of you can get up and I can ask you some questions. That's the way in Vedanta it is actually done. There also the conclusion is similar. Hmm? So suppose I ask you, who are you? How are you going to respond? Yeah, one of you can get up, volunteer. Can have a small exercise. Yes? Yeah, please get up. So I can suppose I ask you, who are you?
I'm Diksha.
That's your name.
Yes, sir.
Who are you? I'm asking you. No, I'm not asking your name.
I am. I am a woman. I'm a human being.
One by one, one by one.
Yes,
I cannot
sir.
take so many answers. You are a woman. That is your gender. That's not you.
I am a human being.
That's your species. That's not you.
I am an aggregate of.
So, so that's the kind of questions, which are asked in our Indian tradition. And most brilliant of these questions was asked from a prince by Vivekananda. The prince came to Vivekananda and said, "You please send to somebody who was attending on him that I want to meet the monk." He said, "Okay, come, but please ask him to introduce himself first." And the prince started introducing one. Ultimately, he said, "What is it? Yeah, I'm not nothing. You have discarded everything which I identify." That's an important thing. We identify ourselves by different aspects, which are different aggregates. Buddha says we identify ourselves by different aggregates. And the most prominent of them is the body. You remember those 5 aggregates? Most prominent identification is by body. But that body is changing constantly. If I were to show you your photographs of childhood, then are you that or this? What you are now? I'm sure you must be all at least 20 years old or 20 plus. So you can have photographs of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and see whether which body of it is you. But you always felt, I am.
Sir, but
Let me complete that argument so as to relate it to these feelings, these 5 khandhas. You say, suppose I say, I am having headache. Now, what does it mean? It essentially means there's an unpleasant feeling in the body. And I am apportioning it to me. There's an experience of unpleasant feeling in the body. That's all. That is a factual representation of the experience. I am extremely brilliant. And that's your perception. You're not that. You're not the headache. You're not the brilliance. I am a very angry person. Yeah, that's your habit pattern, not you. I have a very poor eyesight. Yeah, that's your eye consciousness. So that's what is being told to us. There's no being apart from the 5 khandhas. Now that needs deep reflection. It can be a very unsettling thing. कि मैं हूं ही नहीं कुछ, ये क्या मतलब हो? I keep on saying I am this so and this and that. You don't know me, who am I? कहते रहते हैं ना हम कभी कभी किसी को, अगर कोई हमको चैलेंज करता है तो कहते हैं, you don't know who am I, I'll set you right, I'll set you right, this, that. But I myself don't know who am I, what am I going to tell others? So this is what is indicated as the truth of anatta. And there's no personal being. The body does not belong to me. The feelings don't belong to me because there's no me who is really the owner of them. Is there an owner of if you take the modern scientific perspective, is there an owner of the electrons, protons, and neutrons? Can you say they belong to me? Is there somebody who's owning the water element, air element, earth element, heat element? Or is there somebody, let's put it more grossly, who owns the earth, who owns the water, who owns the sun? Is there anybody in this world who can say, I am owning the sun, I am owning the water, I am owning the earth, I am owning the wind? Obviously, and that doesn't make sense. They're parts of nature. So the body is a part of nature. All these five khandas are part of nature. We are all parts of nature. But we have sentience. There is the uniqueness. Unlike a mountain or a river or a tree, we have a sentience. We have the consciousness which creates the knowledge. And we take that cognition personally. I am seeing. You ask that question, who is seeing? I am hearing. Well, if you are hearing, I challenge you to stop hearing it. You can't. Unless you do all kind of funny things and prevent the process of hearing. I challenge you to stop seeing with open eyes. No, you can't. Eyes will see, whether you like it or not. Of course, you can change the conditions. You can change the conditions by putting strapping your eyes with the pen, with a cloth, or putting some plugs in the ear, but you're changing conditions. As long as the conditions are there for seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, that will happen automatically as a part of nature. So the consciousness is a part of nature. Feelings are part of nature. They'll happen. Whether you like it or not, the feeling will arise. And there are related tendencies, they will produce a reaction. You may think I am reacting. Good luck. Go ahead. It's good to take responsibility. It's very good. So that is, I've given you some taste of what is meant by anatta. Not me, not myself. They are parts of nature. They don't belong to me personally. The body does not belong to me personally. Can you give me one argument to say this body is yours? Tell me. Because that's the biggest identity we all have. I recognize you by your bodily form. You recognize each other by bodily form. We have no way of recognizing other person by Vedana Sanya. Of course, we do in due course, but our immediate identity is by bodily form. And can you say that this body belongs to me? I am the owner of the body. By any logic, can you tell me that?
Because
Think
we,
about
because we reside in it.
who is residing in it? The lungs, the heart, the intestines, the bones, the flesh, urine. What is residing in it?
The life force, our breath,
Do you think?
Huh?
Do you think you?
Do you think you own it?
Is it yours? That's what I'm asking. Is this yours? We're not saying it's not there. We're not saying body is not there. Obviously, it is there. I'm saying it's a part of nature. Now, that is an shaking understanding. If you can really get to the bottom of it, because we all have the understanding that this body belongs to me. It's mine. Actually, I say this is me. Forget about mine and all. This phone belongs to me. Does it really? Who is the me who owns this phone? Find out who is the me who owns this phone. And that's called phenomenology, radical one. You try to understand the phenomena in the absolute depth to whatever extent you can penetrate. Who is owning the body? Who's owning the phone? Who is owning the pen with which you're writing? Is it really yours? Yeah, conventional truth, yeah, of course. Conventionally, we have agreed Because otherwise we'll be killing each other if we don't agree that this is mine and this is yours. They are conventional truths, but in the ultimate sense, that's why I said conventional and ultimate truths. In the conventional sense, there is a car and there is an owner of the car. There's a river and there's a name of the river. That's okay. We don't get confused on that sense, but we're talking about the ultimate reality. So when I say I am so and so, this is my body, this is my feeling, this is my habit, this is my intelligence. Is it really yours? Ask yourself. I remember in my IIT classes, because they are mostly boys there, I would ask them this question, and then there would be a few girls also. So we'd say, well, when the women go and get a beauty contest, on what basis do you adjudge somebody as the Miss World or Miss this or Miss that? This body doesn't belong to you. How do you get a prize? Who should get a prize for a child, for a girl being beautiful? Who should get a prize? In the conventional sense, also, it should be the parent. I mean, what has girl done to deserve a beauty prize? Nothing. I'm sorry, but just think rationally. She was fortunate to be born from parents, and therefore she had a form which the parents nurtured, and maybe she also did something to help it. But it doesn't belong to you. If I'm intelligent, that doesn't belong to me. I'm not really intelligent, doesn't belong to me personally. So intelligence is a part of sankharas. They have it, the latent characteristics which we have. Think about it deeply.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Please go ahead. No holds barred. Ask any question.
Sir, जब हम इस
Come here. Come. I can't see you.
आगे
It looks like coming from other world. So
when
yes.
we were discussing about the example of when we were a child, so was that me? And when we are here, so is that me?
No, I'm
So-
not saying. I said, if you say that I am the body, which body are you? That child's body or this body? That's the question.
हाँ सर, पर मतलब उस एग्जाम्पल को सोच के मेरे दिमाग में ये चीज आई थी that there is something constant in us which is able to judge and differentiate the fact that that was the past which was me, and that is still lingering as I am moving forward and progressing. So there is something constant.
Yeah, what is that? That's what I understand. What is that? That's what Buddha says, it is just a thought believed. It's a pretty disastrous statement for all of our normal intelligence. He says the notion of I hope you can read it, or myself is tenaciously ingrained in us, is just a thought believed. And modern psychology also understands it. Developmental psychology understands it. A child does not have a sense of self. An infant doesn't have a sense of self. It's only after 2 years that why? Because conditioning is done by a parent. You are this. This is your name, and you are a boy. You are a girl. Good girls are like this. Good boys are like this. Girls dress like that. We are of this religion. We are of this country. Our country is great. Our religion is so. All this conditioning goes on and on and on and on and on. Directly, indirectly, because of the society in which he lives, the family, the friends, the people, and is slowly conditioned to be, oh, I am something. I am this, and you give a name. So you give a label. So actually the label remains constant. That's the problem. The label remains constant. And that label, constancy of the label makes feel there must be something constant in it. What is constant? Body is not constant. Feelings are not constant. What else besides that there is? Of course, you may say there must be something. Well, that's your imagination. Yeah, maybe. But that doesn't really impact me in any way. It doesn't impact my behavior in any way. It's not a cause of my suffering. The cause of suffering is I think this is me. And when the body falls ill, I cry. When there's an unpleasant feeling, I cry. I'm suffering. When somebody calls me a fool, I feel bad. because my perception, my image is hurt. When I get angry, then later I reprint. When my eyesight becomes lost, I have to keep on changing my specs. When I'm looking at the screen, I have to choose one specs. If I look far, I have to remove it and see, otherwise the person becomes distorted. So I may feel suffering, oh my God, what the hell? Well, the eyesight is not mine, it's changing and it will go. That's fine. That's the way it is. That's a part of nature. That's the process of aging. That's the law of nature. Nothing unique about it, nothing special about it. So if I think I am, that is just a thought, believe it.
So, but that something is making a judgment, isn't it? जब आप बोल रहे हो कि this eyesight is not mine, so the very statement that something is saying that it's not mine, I'm talking about that
Yeah,
constant.
it's the intelligence. It's the way my ability to do a analysis, which is a part of the mental factors.
तो हाँ तो मतलब वो
Wisdom,
5 उनमें गिना जाए.
wisdom, wisdom is also a part of mental factor, which arises and passes away. That doesn't remain constantly with me, isn't it? We don't remain constantly wise unless we have really reached full enlightenment. So we're not talking of that. I don't think any of us has the delusion that we are fully enlightened. So let's leave aside that part. That possibility is there. We all have that potential. So when we become that, then we don't have to study any psychology class or any damn thing. So that's a wished for, or we all wish to spiritually advance or become fully enlightened. Very good. So, but we are not at the moment, and therefore we are trying to see what is causing us suffering, so that we can understand it to such a depth that we go to the root cause of it. That's the ultimate truth, and then penetrate it so that we really experience that. That's why the whole discussion is there.
Sir, one Sunil sir just texted to inform that he would not be able to join today because he's in a university council meeting, something
Okay.
like that. So, so sir, the question, a lot of questions, but okay. Then this whole, like, how would we linguistically express? Like, as the example that you gave, I can either say that I have a headache or my head is aching. Um, but then how do you linguistically even express that kind of, or because it's conventional language doesn't cater to the kind of thing, yeah. Even if I say that there is an unpleasant feeling in my body, like in the body, the word connect.
Problem is that in the language we have a subject, we have an object, we have a verb. So subject is a thing, while there is no thing here. So the normal language cannot express these facts. So language is one of the barriers.
Can Sanskrit,
So the sense of self, as one of the philosophers, I forget his name, says, sense of self is an illusion created by grammar.
that is. Yeah, does Sanskrit cater to like Sanskrit or Pali languages, because like the texts have been written in those languages and I'm not aware of them at all.
When there is a dialogue, you can't do that. Because there is that abhidhammic text, which is written like a statement of facts. So there's no subject, no object. There is a different flavor, and that makes it so difficult to understand. But obviously, the discourses of the Buddha are given by Buddha to somebody, and question answer is going on. So in question answer, there will be I and you. So you can't avoid it. There's a limitation of language. That's why it is said, this concept of the ultimate truth is really very difficult to express in language. You can only put out what it is not. So you can say there is no car apart from its parts. So what is a car? Well, I'll say it is just a concept. Can't really describe to you that. You have to understand it. There's no forest apart from trees. The trees are there, we can see. And that assembly of all that is called a forest, but not always. That has to be of a particular kind. If I grow a row of trees in my big lawn, we don't call it a forest. There is a connotation of that. If there's a water flowing in a Nala, we don't call it river. So there's a connotation. You can't say water is flowing and therefore it is river. It's not true. It's just for the sake of understanding you are putting it.
Arbitrariness of
They're
language.
only, they're only concepts because they're in names and designations, convenient designations and names. Just as all of you have names. I apologize, I don't remember the names so easily, so I'm not able to speak out. So you have all of your names. They are convenient designations for conventional purposes. You see, when you go to, even an enlightened being has to go to an airport, suppose he's traveling, and there are some I know of, very well accomplished, they have to show their passport. You won't say, there's no me, I. You say, well, go, then sorry, you can't get out of the immigration. So he has to dig out his passport and say, this is me, okay, here it is. So this issue, of course, will keep on bothering you. So it's good, it keeps on bothering, and then we'll keep on discussing it. We don't have to conclude the discussion here, because this will keep on coming again and again and again. Okay. So we'll move further.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, I had this question that, as you said, like car is a concept and it's made by the parts. And just like our body is also made by those, our form is, the being is also made by the five khandas. So when we make a car, there is somebody who is putting the parts together so that it becomes a car. So likewise, there would be someone who would be pasting these khandas together so that we have a being. So who is that? Who is doing the pasting work?
So the theistic people say, therefore, there is a God. Okay. And the rationalist will say, this is nature which is doing it. Now you choose whatever you like. I have no problem with either one. You say it's God, fine, okay. And that's okay, there's no problem. You see, when, for example, you must have studied in science, that a negative charge and a positive charge attract towards each other. And you say, why do they attract? You say, well, that's the nature of it. Somebody says, no, there's a female goddess here and there's a male god here and they get attracted. Well, maybe if you believe that, fine, go ahead. It doesn't matter. The more important is they get attracted and there is a law of attraction and all that. So a phenomenologist will say, okay, if you want to believe there's a male god here, male devata here and a female devi here, and they are getting attracted, be happy, no problem. I have no problem with that. The issue is I want to understand what is the force by which they are attracted and what are the factors which govern it. Similarly, I want to understand how these five khandas operate and how they cause me to suffer, how they cause the experience of suffering. I want to understand that. Who set it up? How did it get assembled? We can study in due course. Doesn't matter. Okay.
And sir, one more question. So, like, sir, continuing with the analogy of the car, so all the Swifts, the car Swift are same. All the Celerio, all the Bellinos, these cars are same. So, sir,
as a concept, they are same. Yeah.
यस सर सर उनके अंदर जो पार्ट्स हैं सारी स्विफ्ट के अंदर सेम पार्ट होगा बट अगर दूसरी कोई गाड़ी लेते हैं एसयूवी उसके अंदर डिफरेंट पार्ट्स होंगे सो देन हाउ डू इंडिविजुअल डिफरेंसेस वुड अराइज क्या सारे
in your class you have 6 people sitting, they're all different looking, isn't it? There are 6 different models of human beings.
Yes sir, but sir, don't the 5 khandas, are they also not similar? So then we should all be same.
No, they're not, they're different, of course. What is similarity about a feeling, or similarity about a earth element, air element, water element? Yeah, those elements are same, but they are combined in different manners. Isn't it? They're combined in different manners. They produce different forms. You say electron, proton, neutron. Oh, well, look at it, modern science. Electron, proton, neutron. So then are all the objects same? No. It is because of their reassembly and configuration in different ways. And you produce from electron, proton, neutron, you get into element, then you get into compound, then you have the whole world.
Yes, sir.
So that is the conventional truth, and that is the ultimate truth. Okay, the ultimate truth is say electron, proton, neutron, or if you have studied quantum theory, quarks are the ultimate truth, or even further, quantum field is the ultimate truth, whatever it means. Don't ask me what it means. And then we are all results of that. All matter is result of that. But they are all different, yeah, because they are combined in a variety of ways. Combinations can be infinite.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So one follow-up question from Sonal's question. So the differences are there, like the five khandas, they are different in different composition, and so there are differences. So if we somehow are able to go beyond these layers, the social sort of conditioning that we've been through ever since we've been born, and all these five aggregates, then what remains is the same, or is it that nothing remains? So there is nothing to be same or different.
So this is a theoretical question. Let us work towards it and then see what happens.
Yes.
Let us work towards removing our identity with the five khandas. It's a very Herculean task, a minor thing. So as we reduce, as we even attenuate our identity with these things, there's a great relief, great reduction in suffering. That's what you are looking for.
What I'm looking for is, if we remove all the khandas or go beyond all the khandas, I'm not sure what the process is here. So is there something even left to be said, that it is same or it is different in all? Like
There's no thing. There's no thing here. Actually, if you see even modern science, it says matter is essentially quantum field. Field is not a thing. Isn't it? Field is not a thing. So the appearance of a thing is an appearance. And from conventional reality, there are things and there are different things and so on. But in the ultimate sense, whichever way you take, whether you take earth, fire, air element, water element, or whether you take electron, proton, neutron, or you take quantum gravity or whatever, they are electrons are manifestations of energy. They are all manifestations of energy. This much now is being taught in school also, isn't it? They're all manifestations of energy, and energy is not a thing. It can appear like a thing under certain conditions. It appears like some wave in some other conditions. Isn't it? You have studied all that in physics, in science. So what is the thing going to be left? Let's keep it open-minded and see, maybe something is left, we'll find out, or maybe nothing is left, we'll find out. There's actually difference between nothing and no thing. Do you get the point? One, you say there's nothing left. Other is there is no thing left, there's something else. There's an experience. There's no experiencer, but there is an experience. There's no dancer, but there is a dance. Okay? That is the not just Buddha's teaching. In some shade, it is a part of Indic tradition. The word Shiva actually means that who is not. What does it mean? That which is not is Shiva. Dance of emptiness. What does dance of emptiness mean? This picture of Nataraja, you must have seen. It's so famous picture in Indian spiritual statues, is shown to be a dance of emptiness. What does it mean? They're abstract concepts, but we can, because you're trying to talk about ultimate reality, that's why I'm tempted to speak. Probably I should have avoided it. But the main thing for us to understand is the tentative nature of the five khandas, that they are a part of nature. They are not personal. That's enough for us to understand at this moment. As we go further, we will be able to get more and more depth into our understanding. Okay?
Sir, I have another question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, if we say that our reactions or responses do not belong to us, then how do we understand the ideas of responsibility or accountability?
I'm saying conventional reality and ultimate truths are different. So we should not conflate the two. We should never mistake one for the other. So we should be very careful. When I say our sankharas don't belong to us, it is the ultimate truth, which is true, which becomes true for us true for me, when I really am able to live according to that. So it can't be that I commit a murder and then tell the judge, there's no I, there's no me. Say, yeah, there's no I, there's no me. So we are not troubling you in any way. Body doesn't belong to you. We are putting the body in jail. Finished. So you can always cut across that argument. So let me, I think we don't have time to go to the next second law. I'll just add to this add to your confusion by this diagram. This is the man whose internal dimensions are shown here. Now you can identify where is this? Where is the man in this? Is this the man or this is the man, and what exactly is the man? And how is the beauty in it? How much beautiful is it? Do you see what I'm intending to point out? This body also is a combination of parts, essentially. And if you want to see it further, suppose you say that somebody can see atoms. Then the carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen inside, and they are same things are outside. Then you will wonder, ये वाला atom मेरा है कि मेरा बाहर का है? और ये तो सांस ले रहा हूँ तो क्या हो रहा है? बाहर अंदर आ रहा है मेरे अंदर, फिर बाहर छोड़ दिया तो मेरा कुछ पोर्शन बाहर चला गया. पता नहीं कुछ पोर्शन चला जाएगा. गड़बड़ हो गई ना फिर तो. Constantly getting dissipated, constantly getting increased, because molecules are coming in, going out. So it's fortunate we can't see that, otherwise we'll get crazy. So we see constant kind of boundary of the body. This is the boundary of the body. But are these really boundaries? They're all porous. Constantly things are going out from them. Things are entering. And just to stop here with the story about this, it may sound very funny to you. I don't know whether it was within your lifetime or much before that. There was a story about a young boy in China who would look at people and tell them, this is your disease, this is your problem, this heart is not functioning well, your lungs are problematic, and your kidney is getting into trouble. So people said, this boy hardly, he has not studied any medicine. He doesn't do any pathological examination. Just by looking at people, how the hell is he telling? And they thought he's a divine person or something. And there's a lot of debate going on. And finally, some scientists investigated and carried out some experiments with him, and they found that by some mutation, his eyesight was able to see in X-ray vision. So when he looked at the person, he saw directly inside what was inside. Because our normal visual perception is in certain wavelengths. If that wavelength spectrum changes to within the X-ray region, it will be like we can do an X-ray of the person standing in front of me. This is what exactly that boy was doing. I mean, he was seeing it actually. So when he said to somebody, your ribs are broken, he actually saw them. So his perception changed totally because it was dependent on sensory abilities. So for him, the concept of beauty ended. There's no beauty. All that he's seeing is the organs of the body inside. So his notion of a man was totally different, or a person was totally different. We don't have that mutation in ourselves. Fortunately, all the human beings, majority of them have a certain abilities of seeing, hearing within certain wavelengths, and we see the world in a particular manner, and we have a what's called a consensual agreement. We have a consensus. This is flower is red. Now, if the same flower was seen by a bee, and the bee was able to say, "Are you crazy? This is violet." Because bee has a different visual perception. So the world which we see and take it to be so solid and fixed is essentially because of certain limitations of senses. And since all human beings have this sense faculties within the same length, except some people who are ill, who have some, for example, color blindness or hearing impairment or some seeing impairment, but majority of the people have same abilities within the same wavelength range. We hear, we see, we smell, we taste, and so on. But we know in animal domain, there are animals which have different abilities. So they see a different world. So where is the world's objectivity? There's nothing like a world which is objectively real. It's all in our mind. Our various senses, 6 senses, see the world. And since all 6 of you and all people around you, they see the same world in the same wavelength, they agree, this is this color, this form, this shape, this is sound, this is that sound, and we have a consensus agreement on that. If there was some genetic manipulation done in human beings, and different people are got different abilities to see and hear, there'll be chaos. You would say the flower is violet, he will say the flower is red, and you can never come to consensus. What do you do now? Even your consensual, conventional truths will be challenged. So we must see that the world which we interact with is a mental construct. And therefore, conventional reality is good. So we have all the same agreed upon conventionally. This is a man, this is a woman, this is called beauty, this is called not beauty, and so on. This is this color, this is this shape. We have all agreed upon, and we do our conventional world living properly. So there is a conventional truth. And the existence of this conventional truth is because all of us have the same sensory abilities. That's all. Otherwise, there will be no conventional truth also. But the ultimate truths remain the same. They don't change. That we are all constituted by earth, air, fire, water is inviolable. There's no doubt about it. The bodies are all constituted of that. You can take it in terms of experience and in terms of actual physical construction. Or you take it in terms of science, electron, proton, neutron, true of everything. No problem. So this distinction between conventional and ultimate truths is of great value. And this has a humbling effect because we generally tend to think of conventional truths as ultimate. This is it. And it is this attachment to these things, attachment to our perceptions, attachment to our body, attachment to our habit patterns, that really causes suffering. So this is what we'll see in the second noble truth. I'll just put that. This is the cause. There is the cause of dukkha. So we'll see that in the next class. We don't want to. It's good that we ask questions because that will hopefully make things clear. I had given a homework, so please complete it over the weekend
Yes.
and submit it, okay? And that email address I have already given to you. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Stay. Have a good day. Namaskar. So I'll close the stop sharing. So we'll close the session.